out of your vulnerabilities will come your strength. Sigmund Freud. You have the power to be the boss of your own life. I'm your host, Monica Allen. I'm a wife, mom, entrepreneur, best-selling author, lifelong learner, and your biz bestie. I have a love and passion for all things small business. Growing my own company from $700 to over 7 figures annually, my goal is to bring you inspiration, business-focused topics and tips, encouragement, and a community that helps you launch, grow, and scale your business, whether you are a dreamer, a side hustler, or a seasoned entrepreneur. You are listening to the Become Your Own Boss podcast. Before we dive into the episode today, I want to remind you that it is that time of year again. The time of year where for those of us who love stationery or still use physical planners, this is usually the time we pick one out. I want to take a moment to quickly tell you about the Become Your Own Boss Planner. This is a planner I developed almost 5 years ago. But this isn't just another planner. It's a roadmap to mastering every aspect of your life, designed to empower you in 6 key areas. This planner is crafted to keep you organized and motivated throughout the year. Whether you're an entrepreneur or looking to elevate your personal growth, the Become Your Own Boss Planner is your ally in turning dreams into reality. Get yours today and start transforming your aspirations into achievements. You can see the link in the show notes to order. I think I have met my entrepreneurial twin during this interview, or maybe many of our stories are just the same. My guest today, Shani Godwin, is a 21-year entrepreneur, author, blogger, podcaster, and speaker. She is the founder, CEO, and Chief Joy Officer of the marketing firm Communique USA. Shani is an expert helping companies take the guesswork out of marketing, telling their stories, and growing their brands. Please take a listen to my interview with Shani, who I absolutely adore and love. And she's a member of my sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So take a moment to listen to my chat with Shani. Hi, Shani. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Hey, Monica. It's so great to be here. This has been a long time coming.
Definitely. And I cannot wait to learn more about you and your business. And one of my favorite questions that I love to ask people is, when you started your business, what problem were you trying to solve?
Oh, that is a great question. Nobody ever starts with that question. And I was trying to solve 2 problems for myself. I started my business 21 years ago in 2002. I was in corporate. I was a creative trapped in a corporate person's body. I was working at Bell South, which is AT&T now, in the advertising department. I was also married, and I was dying in creatively because we kept having budget drills and all this political red tape. And I could see that my ability to move throughout the corporate structure wasn't being based on my merit. It was going to be based on my network, who I know, who liked me. And I just wanted to create. And it was really a belief that I wanted to be able to have my income reflect my effort and be in control of my trajectory. So if I was working hard, I expected to be rewarded hard. If I wanted to slow down, take life at a slower pace, I was cool with reflecting that. The second piece was that I was married at the time, and I could not for the life of me figure out how I would be able to be the kind of wife and potentially mother. I ultimately did not have kids and the marriage didn't work. But besides that, I wanted to have a certain lifestyle, which for me, 2 weeks a year vacation was not going to allow me. In just the schedule of corporate 9 to 5, it wasn't going to allow me to be the kind of partner and mother I wanted to be. So with those 2 things, I was like, yep, I need to make some moves.
Gotcha. Tell us a little bit more about your business and who your ideal client is.
Yeah, my business is named Communique USA. We are a marketing and communications company with a heavy emphasis on communications. We essentially help Fortune 500 companies communicate to their customers more clearly. We do that by helping them find talent in the communication space or the marketing space. We help them place social media people, project managers, digital experts, et cetera, in the corporate communications and marketing departments. And we grow and then they get more work done. I actually tell our clients we're in the business of providing stress relief. Like when we're our best and we're doing what we need to be doing for our clients, it's way less about communications and more about pulling up alongside a busy, stressed out client and giving them relief back to hours in their day so that they can be present with their families and their kids and the things that matter most to them.
Okay, got you. But just so I'm clear, you're helping these companies find the right people to work within their businesses to handle their communications.
Yes. And if they don't need a person, then we will manage the communications project internally end to end. I tell people all I'm good for is writing and talking and helping people communicate. We started out traditionally as a communications company, managing everything internally. Over 21 years, lots of ebbs and flows and economic things happen. And we got an opportunity to start providing staffing services for companies in the marketing and communication space, which opened up a whole nother business line in the business. And that has ended up being the primary bread and butter at this point.
That's great though, because it's very difficult to find, even as a small business, it's difficult for us to find the right person to handle, especially when it comes to social media. You have to have your arm in that element of communicating with your prospects. And then of course, all the other communication that goes along with it, sending out your emails and just all of the list of things that need to be spoken about. Wow. Okay. Tell me this. How has it been to be your own boss? How has it benefited your life?
Oh, how has it been or how has it benefited?
Let's start with benefited first.
Those are two different answers.
Go to the ben part because I know it's different.
Totally different answers. How has it benefited me? I definitely, in Robert Frost's poem, The Road Less Traveled, I believe, fact check that, I'm pretty sure that's Robert Frost, but The Road Less Traveled, I definitely took the road less traveled. And to put it in context, Monica, in 2002, nobody was really like leaving their corporate job to start businesses. This was a year after, I literally left corporate a year after 9/11. We were celebrating as a country the first anniversary of 9/11, and I was packing up to leave. Being young, I was 27, leaving at a very uncertain time in the economy in the country. People were like, girl, are you crazy? Like, what are you doing? But my story is one of just trusting myself, strong belief and conviction in a vision that I know that God gave me. And it has paid off in dividend. The coolest part of the story is I really didn't start out to create this big goal staffing thing that is scaled and grown. I started out, as I said, to have a certain lifestyle, to be able to create, to write for companies. And it was just me. What it has become and what has happened in the economy, the world, content now drives everything. Content didn't drive anything when I started this business, but content drives the internet. We didn't have social media. It's benefited me because I've learned about myself. It's grown my faith as a believer. It's grown my faith and my belief in myself and my abilities. And my favorite part is, even though we're 21 years in, I'm still growing, I'm still learning. And I tell people we're at that phase where there's a saying, it takes 20 years to be an overnight success. I think people are starting to notice now, but it has taken a long time for that to happen. So I'm at a place where I'm really, really, really grateful that we just never quit. We just kept going and going and going. There were a lot of reasons to quit, which circles back to how it's been.
Yes, I have some other questions around some things you said, but let's talk about that. How has it been?
It's hard. I mean, it's to be an entrepreneur. First of all, I think leadership, entrepreneurship, I think it is a calling. I truly think you are called to entrepreneurship. You have to be in it for reasons beyond the obvious. It's so funny to me. You get this. People are always like, oh, it must be nice to be your own boss. I'm like, are you kidding me? First of all, I have a million bosses. All my clients I'm accountable to. My
Yes.
employees, I'm accountable to. You're trading one boss for multiple bosses. That is a myth of entrepreneurship. Now, I have ability and autonomy to say, I don't want to work with you, right? But at the end of the day, I got to figure out how to get paid, how to pay people. Taking care of employees is a whole nother level. You're responsible for their families and their livelihood, and it's stressful. And not to mention things outside of your control. So again, started after 9/11, went through the whole mortgage crisis of 2007-8, had to pivot like crazy through the pandemic. We lost 85% of our revenue in an hour during the pandemic, had to pivot, save it, build it back, and now scale it back up. It's never a dull moment, but it's what I was called to. I'm able to dig deep when times get tough, and that has been hard, but I've grown up with this business and I've done a lot of life with this business, and it really has helped me become. Michelle Obama talks about becoming. Business, I've become who I was created to be and am becoming as a result.
Oh, I love that so much. I love that. And I will tell you, you and I have a lot in common in that you made the statement, you were creative trapped in the corporate environment.
Yes.
And that's kind of how I was. I was in insurance, which is very rigid. And
Right.
I'm okay, I can only get so creative with these spreadsheets, changing colors,
Exactly.
all kinds of stuff. I'm like, okay, this isn't working. I totally understand that.
Like, these are some awfully colorful spreadsheets.
Exactly.
Same, yeah. I was writing up all kinds of stuff. They're like, girl, this is not, what are you doing? Oh, I'll write it.
Right, right, exactly. You mentioned about content wasn't a thing when you started.
No.
And now it's everything. How did you transition that? How did you ebb and flow with that change?
I'm going to use this analogy because I'm real time in a space of losing weight. And I was just working out this morning and I'm down about coming up on 35 pounds. And I look in the mirror. Sometimes I can see it, but like when I was looking in the mirror this morning, I was like, I don't see it. I know I've lost it. I can feel it in my clothes, but over the course of 20 years, it happens gradually and slowly, right? I think the challenge becomes being able to see trends when they're happening and know I need to pay attention to this trend so I don't get left behind. And I think that's like a challenge for small businesses. So I'll use AI as an example. Small businesses are hearing about AI. Most of them are busy, heads down in their business. They're not really thinking about the impact of AI. But if you don't learn about it now, you're going to look up and the world will have moved. And if you haven't learned about it, now you're playing catch up. I know for a fact in my Strength Finders assessment, futuristic is just one of my gifts. I do have an ability to be able to kind of futuristically look ahead and go, I don't know social media, but I probably need to learn it to figure out how to work with it, whether I want to do it or not. This is something that's coming up as will become a competitive threat. If it's in the comm space, it's my responsibility to learn it. So real time, we're figuring out Jasper and ChatGPT and all the things because we're a communications company. At the point someone can spit out a whole bunch of copy in 2 seconds, we need to be paying attention to that.
Exactly. But please edit that copy. Please look at
it. Yes.
Please.
We've learned how to use it as a tool to assist, like give you that creative spark to get going, but really use it as a tool, but also as a tool to learn so that, again, you can shift and pivot and stay. It's not even about staying ahead of the curve. It's just being on trend, I think, and not ignoring or being so busy working in your business that you're not worried about it because it's not on fire right now. But eventually, if you don't worry about it, it will be on fire and impact you later.
Right. That makes perfect sense for sure. Tell me more about, well, let me ask you this. What are some of the challenges that you faced in business as you ventured over 21 years?
Where do you want me to start? The hardest part,
some of the big ones.
The hardest one, honestly, was scaling over the $1 million mark. I didn't start this business to scale to $1 million. It was never a thing in the beginning part of the story. As I said, it was the lifestyle play. I aligned with had an advisory board early in the early years. And my first advisory board was really just comforting. I put them in place when I went through my divorce because my ex-husband was a partner. And I was like, oh, I need someone to kind of hold me accountable to my goals. That board was great. But from there, I created another advisory board after they all kind of rolled off. That took about 5 years. At the 5-year mark, two of my bosses from when I was an intern, Monica, I've actually had 4 bosses come work for me over the 21 years. 2 of them were advisors. And I know that he saw $1 million company for me. I learned a lot about scaling. He was the first person to be like, you can scale this. I think we were probably about 300,000 at that time. And I mean, 300 to 1 million when you're already doing all the work seems like I don't even understand. But he really taught us how to sell and how to do business pitch, and that board really helped us build our confidence. But it wasn't something that was in me to do. What I realized was something very powerful. It's very important that you honor the vision that's in you. We scaled over 1 million. We did do the thing, but I realized I had started chasing someone else's dream for my business. And when we got over 1 million, that came with a lot of responsibility. It came with very quickly going from 1099 contractors to 14 W-2s in 4 months. And it was chaotic. And now you are over the $1 million mark. So to express isolation, sadness, confusion, stress to people who are applauding you because you've done this big thing that everyone thinks is the big thing we're all supposed to be pushing for. It was really, really hard because nobody understood. And I kept being met with, you should be happy. This is what you've been working for. I'm very grateful. Without that person, I would not ever have been able to scale. But it honestly has taken the better part of about the last 8 years for us to truly get a handle on it, for me to grow as a leader. My biggest growth came in the last 8 years of scaling, learning to manage employees. That in and of itself is like being a psychologist. I mean, no one told me I was going to be a psychologist and have to really understand, people, you think you're hiring someone to do a job, but you're hiring a person, a human who has a full life, who's going to bring all those issues. No one told me about, you start scaling and growing with corporates, but they don't pay you for 30, 45, 60 days, but you got to pay all these people. Yeah, I could go on and on and on. So I'll put a pin in it there.
But no, those are all valid points and valid issues. Okay, you scaled to over $1 million. Was someone else's dream. When you started a business, you said you wanted to be a lifestyle thing. You knew what you wanted. How have those two reconciled?
They haven't fully. What I ended up doing was classic entrepreneur, creating a thing. At the point I was going over 1 million and I was unhappy, I was doing the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program. Okay. And I had all this unmanaged growth. And I was miserable. And I found myself at Babson College in spring of 2017, doing this program to create a growth plan. And I was like, is it okay to not want to grow? Because, I think there are all these myths in business and just society. We're a capitalist country. Grow. But I needed someone to give me permission to not grow, someone to give me permission to catch my breath. And ultimately, that permission had to come from me. I got home. My flight was delayed from Boston, headed back home, snowstorm, 14-hour days for a week. Finally got in bed at 1:00 on a Saturday morning from this week at Babson, and woke up at 3 a.m. just bawling, like 2 hours of sleep. My brain was just churning and processing, and I felt like a robot. And I started crying and I was like, I am not happy. Like, no one will tell you you're supposed to be happy, but I was like, I'm not happy. And I was like, I've got to redefine for myself what happiness looks like. And I realized I was happier when I was a $250,000 company. And I was happier when I was the smaller company. And that was just as okay as being a $2 million company. In that moment, I made a decision to start defining my success by what makes me happy. And then I sketched out a whole business plan for something called Joy Economics. And so I got that trademarked. And I've used it to start speaking to companies about how do you find joy in your business. It's a passion thing. It's a labor of love, but I'm on a crusade to change the way we let each other live, work, and play in corporate through Joy Economics.
I love that.
Yeah.
I didn't even know where you were going there. I love that so much. Joy
Yeah.
economics. Yeah. Joy is a thing. And sometimes if you're not careful, it can be fleeting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, for me, it looks like figuring out where do I serve my business best? Like we live in a world that makes us think we're supposed to do all the things. God created me for very specific things. So at the point I start chasing joy in my business and the things that make me happy, then I can let go of the things that don't make me happy, which typically are not my gifts. They're not my things I'm supposed to be doing. Now I can recognize when like my heart starts fluttering, I'm probably in the right zone. If I start getting tired, drained, stressed out, burned out, I don't need to be doing that. I'm not gifted for that. Then I know where I need to bring in resources to help me. And so we're constantly working at this. It's a commitment, but we're getting there. I'm pretty happy these days.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Have you read the book Who Not How by Benjamin Hardy?
Yes and no, not officially read it, but I do have it. And I do a program called Strategic Coach. And we've done a whole module around who, not how. So I do know the principles of who, not how, but absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
It's the
and
who.
So, yeah, it's the who. And I'm doing a lot of that searching right now because so much of the who has been me or Ethan, and we've got to
Right.
get the right who's in the right places. But yeah, I just read that book a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, okay, it had my brain racing of all these things. I need to do, right? But that's cool to do Strategic Coach because I know he wrote the book with Dan Sullivan.
Yeah, I love Strategic Coach. I landed in the Strategic Coach community a year ago, and everything that I was stressed out about and crying about back in 2017, they validated that was real. And that community just sees it the way I see it. I felt so affirmed when I started doing Strategic Coach, like, we can create businesses that can scale and grow and that honor a bigger picture life. And I don't have to work to live. I don't have to live to work. I can work so that I can live and create lifestyle that honors who I am. That program has served me very well.
That's amazing. I'm going to talk to you more about that offline.
Offline.
I'm interested in it. I've actually looked it up and just kind of tabled it, but I'll talk to you about that more offline. I would love to know more about it. One other question. If there was one thing you could go back and tell your younger self, everybody's like, one, I have a lot, but if you can think of one thing, what would it be?
I actually have the answer for this because I've been thinking about this a lot recently. I'm at the age in life, at the point in my career, and at the point in my business where all the old folks sayings just start making sense. You're like, oh, that's what give it time. That's what goes around comes around means. I am at the stage in life where I'm seeing the going around coming back around. And I'm so, so grateful that I've always been a good person to people, even when they were not good to me. I'm so glad and grateful that I've always tried my best to be kind and do the right thing. That built up karmatic energy, I guess that's a word, like karma energy. It's coming back around. And I go, oh, I'm glad I didn't screw you when you took advantage of me. I'm glad everything starts coming back around. And if you do the right thing, even when it hurts, even when you're being hurt, taken advantage of, it does come back around. My answer that I would tell myself is just keep doing the right thing. Just, you don't have to understand why. You will never go wrong when you do the right thing.
Oh, I love that. My mom used to tell me that all the time when I was growing up. I mean,
That's what
like,
I mean. Yeah, it's like, oh, that's what they mean.
that's
I
what
am
they
looking forward to being a not too fast guy, but like a wise older person. Not too fast. I got a
yeah,
birthday coming up. It's
not
coming
gonna
real
rush
fast, but
you.
yeah, wisdom is a good thing.
It is a great thing. And it's interesting because I watched Blue Zones on Netflix, which is talking about the people living over 100, living to over 100.
Oh yeah.
And one of their biggest things was the wisdom when the older people live with the younger people, how that
Yeah.
wisdom is trickled down versus, sticking the old people in a nursing home and you just got all the wisdom in the nursing home with all the older people who know everything, right? Having
Yeah.
it stick around is a positive thing. You just made me think of that.
Yeah. And it's intentional. Like if you think about God's design, you really should honor your elders because they're passing on the roadmap for how to live well. The key is when you're young, you don't listen most of the time.
True.
Experience is the teacher, but the experience does also create the wisdom. So it all comes full circle. But yeah, do the right thing. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Just like, wow, that happened and it felt like it was against me. But 20 years later, it was for me.
Yeah.
I know I'm spitting a lot of like Bible and faith stuff. That's kind of who I am, but it is like God is always working things out for our good. It's always going to work out for your good if you do the right thing. You just will.
I love that. Okay, so I actually have one more question. This is kind of more back to business, but I know you work with a lot of Fortune 500 companies, but if there was something you could tell the small business owner that's listening to this show around communications,
yes,
what is something or 2 or 3 tips you would give them around that?
Oh, I have lots because I've taught, coached, worked with personally a lot of small businesses over the year, and I'm a small business owner. The first thing I would say is at the point you are starting to get tired of the way that you're expressing and communicating your brand, your ideal customer is probably just starting to notice you. What I see is, we're entrepreneurs for a reason. Most visionary entrepreneurs have a high level of impatience. One of the biggest things you see small businesses do is just jump straight out into marketing and then they go, it didn't work. And then they go do something else. All you're doing is by pivoting that fast, all you're doing is fragmenting your brand. You're building up equity of nothingness. Like if your brand looks one way today, 3 months later, something else, consistency is what really builds a brand. And consistency in your messaging is very important. If people don't understand what it is you do, they don't know where to find you, they won't do business with you. Consistency in saying the same things over and over and over. Consistency in everything, doing the same things. Consistency in exercise. It's that consistency is what builds equity. So I tell people to think of their comms and their brand in terms of like a 401k. It's a long range thing. You're going to put $1 in. You're not going to cash it out. You can, but you're not going to cash $1 out of your 401k in 3 months. You play the long game. That I also think small businesses, guilty. The older I get, the more exposure I get to good resources, I realize that we don't prepare. We don't plan. I am the most guilty. I was thinking up a big old idea in bed last night and I was about to make 5 phone calls this morning. And I was like, pause. Like, maybe just go research or Google or honestly ask the people you're thinking of selling to. If you just do a little bit of research, you'll get where you need to get faster. And then you'll know the actual messages you need to say. We tend to write our communications and market our businesses the way we think it should be marketed. When your customers and your ideal customers are already out there, you just take a little time to do some research, talk to people, whether it's one-on-one conversations, small focus groups, a survey. It's going to tell you everything you need to know. And now you craft your messages and those messages will stick because it wasn't what you thought. You're not your ideal customer most of the time and you're the owner. So you could save a lot of time and money. And then that with consistency, now we're really starting to get somewhere.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
my pleasure.
it. Yes. And I know you have your ideal client, which you mentioned earlier, but should one of those ideal clients be listening right now, what's the best way for them to get in touch with your company?
The best way for them to get in touch with our company is to find us on LinkedIn at Communique USA, or they can go to our website, and it is, I know you're going to put it in the show notes, but it's www.communique, and it's COMMUNIQUE-USA.com. And personally, if you want to connect with me, you can follow me on Instagram at I am Shani Godwin, or on LinkedIn.
Love it. Thank you so much, Shani, for being here and just sharing so much insight and honestly some vulnerable things as well. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I love all that you're doing, and I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm proud of you too. I've got to learn more about joy economic. That's amazing.
Okay.
Thank you, Shani, so much for joining us on the podcast. All of Shani's contact information is in the show notes. Please reach out to her or her firm if you can utilize her company's services. So many of the things Shani and I discussed make me reflect back on my own journey. From our initial goal to find creative purpose in our corporate careers, to taking the leap in the early 2000s and recognizing that becoming your own boss is really about serving others, thereby having even more bosses. I can remember so clearly taking a Start Your Own Business class over 25 or maybe even 30 years ago. I recall the word autonomy standing out to me. I knew that that was something I really wanted. The ability, as Shani mentioned, to create something that honored my vision and my vision for my life. I must admit too, like Shani, I have not always gotten this right. But the great thing is that as long as we can keep living, we can keep learning and therefore keep growing. We can take our vulnerabilities or weaknesses and overcome the challenges, thus becoming stronger as we surpass that challenge and keep climbing. As small business owners, Shani left us with some great takeaways for our businesses. 1, content is everything. This really means that no matter what business you're in, there is content that you can and should be creating. Number 2, consistency is what builds a brand. Don't change your logo every year. Don't change your tagline or messaging every few months. Even though you're bored, your potential customers are just getting to know you. Number 3, we must be open to accepting and at least giving new things a try. We can't just be head down in our businesses. We will get left behind if we are. We have to keep learning about our business, about our industry, and about ourselves. If you have not begun to think about how you can implement AI in your business, you're already behind. So check it out, dive in, play around with it. Just the other day, Ethan figured out a way that he could use ChatGPT to help provide quotes to our prospective customers. I was blown away. And his favorite thing he likes to say is, it's a game changer. But truly, I even said it before he could get it out. This is a game changer. Talking about saving time. And it recently helped me brainstorm ideas for our charter school's 10-year celebration. So use it like a tool. It's similar to a calculator. Don't be afraid of it. Dive in and find out more about it. And number 4, plan better. That could just mean actually just having a plan. Don't fly by the seat of your pants, but actually take the time to create a plan around a new idea or thought you may have for your business. As someone who knew I wanted to have my own business someday, it took me a few years to go from seeing that word autonomy to actually kickstarting my own business. But boy, am I glad I did. Despite, yes, it is tough. It can be hard. It is not easy. But I'm so glad I took that leap of faith. Do you or someone you know want to start a business in 2024? If so, I'm hosting a Kickstart Your Own Business workshop on January 17th. It is at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, and it is free. I am sharing some step-by-step guidance and information around marketing and growth strategy for a new business. I absolutely love talking to early stage and new entrepreneurs. This is one of the reasons I started this podcast. Another was because I wish I would have had someone to really walk me and Ethan through all of the ins and outs of getting started. So on January 17th, I'm happy to spend some time sharing my knowledge and some of what I've learned over the years to grow our business. It does me no good to keep it to myself, truthfully. So join me by seeing the link in the show notes or visiting my website at monicaallen.com. Also, just really quickly to circle back to takeaway 3 around not just being head down in your business. For the first 4 to 5 years of our business, Ethan and I just grinded. Like, we were up early, we went to bed late, we just worked. But truthfully, it wasn't until we stepped outside of our 4 walls, and I've said this before, it wasn't until we stepped out of our 4 walls outside of that and actually met other entrepreneurs, learned different things, learned about core values and money and people and how to manage people and all of those things. That's when our business really took off and we were able to grow our revenue and just grow ourselves as leaders. So I say all that to say is don't get so buried in your business that you don't take the time to learn new things, meet new people, do all of those things, because truthfully, while you're grinding in the thoughts of growing, you actually could go outside of your world and learn more. You know, the thing is, there's going to be new technology that comes about. Yes, AI is the thing that everyone's talking about, but there's going to be iterations on that. There already is, actually. And there's going to be other things that come along that move even faster. And we've got to be willing to jump on and take the ride and figure out how it can help us in our businesses. So I just wanted to kind of circle back to that. But as always, thank you for tuning in today. I'm grateful for you. Take a moment to follow me on Instagram, subscribe to the podcast, and share this podcast episode with a fellow entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur. I'm telling you, if you even think you want to have your own business someday, just start listening and reading things pertaining to entrepreneurship. I started reading Inc. magazine at 16. Remember, your inputs determine your outputs. And also remember, now is the time. Now is the time to level up, leave a legacy, and become your own boss.